Have you ever been part of a big project at work to improve something, only to watch it totally fizzle out with no real results? It's a super common story, right? Well, today we're going to get to the very heart of why that happens. We're going to talk about what separates the projects that create real, lasting change from those that just fall flat. So let's just ask the big question right up front. Why is this such a common frustration? You know the drill. You get the team together, you have all the meetings, you implement some new system, and then 6 months down the line, you're basically right back where you started. What is going on there?
The answer, and I bet you've seen this happen, is surprisingly simple. We jump straight to the solution. We have a hunch, a gut feeling about what's wrong, so we rush to implement a fix. But here's the massive catch. Without data, we're not really problem solving. We're just guessing. We're acting on assumptions and stories we heard in the break room. Okay, so how do we stop the guesswork and start solving the right problem? Well, the answer lies in a structured approach. And one of the most powerful tools for improving existing processes comes from the world of Six Sigma. It's a framework called DMAIC. DMAIC, you pronounce it DMAIC, is a 5-phase data-driven roadmap. Honestly, think of it like a GPS for problem solving. It gives you this incredible structured framework that forces you to move past your assumptions and make sure that the changes you make are real, they're targeted, and most importantly, they're measurable. So, these 5 phases are define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. You start by clearly defining the problem. Then, and this is our big focus for today, you measure the current state. From there, you analyze the data to find the root cause. And only then do you move to improve the process. Finally, you put controls in place to make sure the gains you made actually stick. It's this logical flow that keeps you from skipping the crucial steps.
All right, let's zoom in on that critical second phase, measure. This, my friends, is where the magic really starts to happen. It's the point where we stop talking about how we feel the process is doing, and we start looking at the cold, hard facts. The entire measure phase really boils down to 2 critical actions: quantifying the problem and establishing a baseline. It's all about gathering the facts so you can draw a really clear starting line. Because, think about it. If you don't know exactly where you are right now, how on earth can you possibly know if you've improved later? The main goal here, the whole point, is to quantify the problem. We're taking a vague issue, something like customer shipping is just too slow, and we're turning it into something concrete, like the average time from order to shipment is 4.7 days, with 15% of orders taking more than 7 days. You see that massive difference? One is just a vague complaint. The other is a hard, actionable fact. And you can't really fix a complaint, but you can absolutely fix a fact. And this isn't just about crunching random numbers. It's a very deliberate, systematic process. You decide precisely what you need to measure, you create a detailed plan for how you're going to collect that data, and only then do you go out and get it. You're building a factual foundation using specific tools to make sure your data is valid and totally reliable. A huge piece of this is the data collection plan. Now, this isn't just some piece of bureaucratic paperwork, it's an absolutely critical step. It's this level of rigor that ensures the data you collect is trustworthy and that it actually represents the real-world process you're trying to fix. So where does all this meticulous work lead? It's not just for show, I promise. The data you gather in the measure phase becomes the essential fuel for the next supercritical step, the analysis phase. Here's a great way to think about the connection. The measure phase is all about the what. It asks, what is actually happening right now? And it gives you that data-backed baseline. The analyze phase then takes that baseline and asks the next logical question. Why is this happening? You see, you just can't get to the why without first nailing down the what. And this brings us to a really fundamental truth in any kind of improvement effort. The simple act of measuring a process actually starts to change it, because all of a sudden, it brings focus and clarity to what's really going on. There's an old saying that just perfectly captures the spirit of this phase. If something cannot be measured, it cannot be improved. Let that sink in. That really is the core lesson here. Measurement isn't just a preliminary step, it is the absolute foundation for any meaningful, lasting improvement. So, to wrap this all up, the measure phase is the great transformer. It takes a fuzzy, subjective problem that everyone complains about around the water cooler and turns it into an objective, data-backed challenge. And a challenge with clear data? Well, that's a challenge that you can actually solve. So I'm going to leave you with this question. What's one process in your world that just feels broken, but you've never had the hard data to actually prove it. What could you truly transform if you just started? By measuring. Thanks for joining me.